Everybody, thanks for joining us today. My name is Cameron. We are Clovity, Platinum Solution Partner. Today, actually really excited to be covering, we've got some of my folks on, and we're going to kind of pass that over to them in a second, but we're going to be looking at very baseline strategic elements that are really important. We'll kind of do it through a lens of Jira Service Management or just service management in general. But I think we're going to touch on some knowledge management, and then I think we might even get into a little project management. But I think so often you end up getting a little too deep into the process, right? And with Atlassian tools, it's very important to understand what your baseline is and how you want to approach things, and then building that in, right? We can't just tell you what a best practice is because there's many best practices, and we need to figure out what works best for you. So I'm going to pass it over to my team really quick to say hello, and then we'll dive in. Adriana?
Hi, I'm Adriana Sensenbrenner. I am new to Clovity. I am one of our customer success managers, currently leading large-scale cloud migrations and also getting ramped up on all things sales. So excited to be here.
Nice. Hi, everybody. I'm Shah. I'm the customer success partner. My role is basically to bridge the gap between Adriana, Cameron, and a couple of other key folks. So basically sales and delivery, and just trying to make sure that all of our clients get the best value for when they engage with us, and regardless of what the engagement is. That's for the most part, that's pretty much it. I'll pass it back on to Cameron.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So just to kind of kick things off today, so we've had some conversations recently, just kind of about your background and change management and things like that, and you've gone and worked through multiple federal entities, right, and tried to look for opportunities to enhance their processes, right? What's a couple of things that you kind of look out for in those moments?
Yeah, so just a little bit more background. So I come from years of experience leading large-scale transformation efforts, mainly across the defense and security spectrum. So coming to Clovity was a unique opportunity for me to not only leverage that perspective, but also bring a new perspective when we're talking about cloud migrations and basically innovative technologies in general. So one of the biggest things that's kind of like a change management 101 when you're talking about transformation initiatives or anything that's talking about like change efforts or anything is making sure everyone's aligned on what is the end goal, right? Like what are we trying to achieve here? And that making sure that you are aligned on that definitely sets a lot of teams and initiatives up for success, because one of the biggest things when you're talking about change adoption or barriers for change is that lack of alignment in the beginning. So that's really, really, really important. There's a figure out there that says like 80% of all transformation initiatives fail because of the lack of alignment in it. So, and that's really incredibly important when you're talking about some of these large-scale cloud migrations that Clovity is undertaking for commercial and also federal clients. So, and especially within the federal sector, it's incredibly important for everyone to be aligned in order to achieve that end goal, to allow a lot of their missions in order to succeed.
Sure. And I did tee you up a little bit on that one, because I
did.
actually wanted that answer, because I think one of the key things that I keep running into as a consultant is the fact that sometimes when we are having client conversations, right, we are jumping right into what can this product do, and that's great, right? But with the extensibility and flexibility of Atlassian platforms, it's really key to understand. And well, let's start with service management, right? So just from that perspective, right, anything can be a service funnel intake, but as a group, right, if you were looking to set this up, you really have to understand, well, what are the services that I offer, that my team offers, right? What does that look like? What information do we need, right? And you start to kind of think about and map out exactly all of the elements that you are. And again, it's kind of, again, aligning around what are we doing here? Why are we doing it, right? And so as you map out that service catalog, which is kind of your front end with your customers, whether they're internal, external, then you start to decide, okay, well, from a knowledge base standpoint, you can start to hopefully surface some of that information. So as people are coming in to submit, maybe that answer already exists. Maybe you don't actually have to take that moment to respond to that, right? So the goal is give people information ahead of time, right? So as soon as you understand your service intake, you can start to understand, well, what knowledge is needed, right? Or what can I provide ahead of time? Now, sure, there's still going to be things that are more complicated or cannot be solved by, a page on on your knowledge base or on Confluence, right? But you're starting to alleviate some of that strain, right? And understanding that front end and where some of those opportunities are in the knowledge base, you also then start to funnel and understand, well, okay, well, these types of tickets or requests go to this person or to this team. This thing is an emergency. This needs to go here and let everybody know, right? And so as you're mapping out these things, while it's a little complicated, it's technically the stuff that you are doing every single day, right? But it's taking that moment to map it out, understand it, and I just think it's so powerful because I think we all intuitively know the processes, but just speaking them out loud or just kind of putting them down, whether it's on a whiteboard or whatever, I don't know. It's important. And I feel like once you understand that as a baseline, these tools kind of open up to you, right? Because then you start to see, you're like, oh, well, we can pull that process in, or like, oh, well, that should be a service request. We get that request all the time. And then on the back end, you're just doing a lot less sorting of data and nothing gets lost. So that from just a Jira service management lens, right, is kind of understanding how do we intake information, how do we provide information, and how do we work on that, those tasks that come to us. So I mean, Summer, you work a lot with our clients as well. Is there anything, kind of, have you seen this issue kind of pop up in the past? I know we obviously work with clients of varying maturity levels, right? So it does depend. Right. But have you seen that out there in the wild?
For sure. I feel like for the most part, clients who are newer to service management have systems that need to be brought to a certain organization. You have to structure things in a way where, one, they're easily accessible, and two, they're easily understandable for, let's say, somebody who's just joined the company. So going back to what you were saying, you can have processes that the core part of your team understands that this is how things are done. However, somebody who's a degree or two removed, when you introduce them into the equation, they're not in on the joke, or they don't know that information. So they'll get on Confluence to look for the information, but it's not there. So I think one of the most important things, what you said, is part of automating your service, entire service section, is the fact that you have to take some common requests, put them in your knowledge base, and then build automations off of that. And so, for example, if you have like a tier 1 or tier 0 question, guess what? You can just find that in the frequently asked questions section. So I think having that structure is very nice, but I do understand that it's not as easy to just be like, oh, we need structure, and then you have structure. So that does involve a good bit of effort from the team, the organization, and then also a lot of willingness from basically everybody from the team to indulge and obey to those structure rules.
Sure.
I kind of want to take a step even further here and kind of align on the importance of knowledge management in general. So I couldn't tell you how many times when I was on client site, in team meetings, leadership meetings, what have you, the importance of figuring out where to house all this information, especially in the government sector.
Oh yeah.
There is obviously a lot of change happening, and the pace of change is ever increasing, right? But one of the things that's really, really important with specifically for federal clients, government clients in general, is figuring out not only how to structure that information, but also understanding the value of having a repository that has all the information. So when people come in, when they're new to the organization, they know where to find the information. And of course, then you talk about, succession planning and making sure that the people who are leaving those organizations are able to have a repository where they're able to dump that information before they leave.
Sure.
A lot of information gets lost when people leave these organizations, and the people coming in and the people staying kind of bear the blunt of that, honestly. So it's really important to really take that into consideration, especially when you're talking about, automating a lot of these processes that's leveraging a lot of the information there. So I just want to shout out knowledge management.
Thank you, because that segues me very nicely into the second kind of part. It's not
Perfect.
second part, but so I just kind of talked about the service management methodology, right? When you're trying to just understand, like, hey, like, how do we work through these, or how do we present what we do, and how do we work through that internally, like through workflows, right? Well, we also get to a point where, folks that are on Jira and aligning with Confluence, right? So the project management and the knowledge management component, you end up at a point where I think sometimes our clients are expecting to be told exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the rub and the beauty of Atlassian products is it's actually not, we're not here to tell you what to do. We can tell you best practices once you work with us to decide, or work amongst yourselves to decide, what is your perspective on the work that you do, and what is your perspective on that knowledge too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have conversations all throughout the day, and I think again, why I wanted to do this session is we end up jumping into the product and into the features, and,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we haven't even thought about, well, how do we approach our projects, right? And we've now moved away from the project terminology to spaces, right? Within both, Confluence has always had it, but now Jira uses that as well.
Right.
And while it may be hard to kind of break the naming habit, there's something so valuable in kind of opening that up, right? And then also aligning that with your knowledge base, because at this point, you have to, as an organization or as a group, right, depending on how big this rollout is, what are your products? What are
Mm-hmm.
your projects? What are your teams? What are your services? And how does that work roll up in, right? So if you're more a company that's focused on teams and your projects are broken down within the teams, well, you want your spaces to be teams, right? And then you put those work elements underneath, and you maybe connect them amongst the different teams, but right, then you're working those work items to close. Maybe you're doing projects, and maybe this is ongoing project, right? Release 1, release 2, release 3, right? And so it's a project that constantly stays open. Or maybe you build a project to eventually close it down and wrap it up, right? And it really just depends on how do you guys perceive things, right? And is it product focused? Is it service focused? Is it software development folks, literally anything, right? Where is your value stream, and how do you track it, right? And if you can match how you're viewing your work with how you're managing your knowledge, all of that stuff, and it does take a bit of a discipline, right? But if you set it up the right way, or if you've been doing it the wrong way, that's okay, because you can always kind of we'll use a migration as that opportunity, right, to hopefully shuffle the cards and neaten things up. But there's that an extra intention there that you can do it for sure.
And I think there's a unique opportunity, especially when we're talking about DC to cloud migrations. This element of like spring cleaning, right? We were talking about that earlier. This is a perfect time to clean up your information, clean up your data. So when you are migrating in this new ecosystem, which is the cloud, that everything's kind of already positioned beautifully for you to kind of hit the ground running with your teams or your projects or what have you. So you can even unlock even more value to what you're doing downstream, which is incredibly important, and also incredibly empowering to take ownership of those decisions on behalf of your team and also on behalf of your organization.
Oh, for sure.
Yep, for sure. I feel like there is a lot of value in even taking a step back and putting in a little bit of effort to get to the next stage, where you are then at that point better set up for scaling whatever you need to do. If you need to focus on a certain aspect we need to make our workflows better, you are at least set up better. But yeah, it, I think is very advantageous if you will take a step back and at least set the basics up correctly. And but yeah, then again, it really just depends on how does your team work. You need to know, you need to understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're getting there. And I feel like once you know that information, you will know how to set up your Jira or your Confluence to kind of, you know, enable you to get to your goal.
Oh, yeah. And I think, and that, and thank you both for humoring me today and having this conversation, because, you know, we kept getting into these conversations, and I just felt like the baseline was missing, and it's so valuable when a team, because I keep coming across this thing where we I don't know if we do it as a species, but we just kind of like we assume that others know what we know, right? And and it's cute, but it also is not helpful, right?
Yeah.
Like because at the end of the day, somebody new comes in and you're like, well, why aren't they understanding it? Well, it's like, well, you know, yeah, you kind of gave them a bit of an explanation, but you didn't really kind of bring them around in terms of like, hey, just so you know, this is day 1 or this is day 7, right? Month 1. Hey, this is how we approach things. This is how we do things, right?
Yeah.
And then we use the system to facilitate that, right? And that's why it's structured this way, right? And having that simple conversation, but just have somebody new, like, you know, you're talking about like new people coming in or being outside the joke or whatever, right? Taking that moment to explain that and in a light way, that's kind of governance, right? Where you're like, hey, so this is how we do things here, right? And this is how we monitor things. So, you know, I just want to kind of recommend everybody, like, if you have not had those conversations, right? Especially if you're trying to modernize tools and you're trying to move forward in terms of spending a bunch of money and getting adoption, try to see if you can get everybody on your team and in your groups just focused on the same goal, because once you can identify it, right, once you make it tangible, it just makes it a lot easier to understand kind of all the steps that you go through to get there.
For sure. I think another big value item is kind of onboarding your new coworkers or the newer people in the company or your team to understand what the system of work is, and it's like, hey, this is what you were saying is as well as this is how things work. These are the processes. And I feel like when you leave somebody to kind of figure things out on their own, they get frustrated, waste time, like, you know, don't know where to find things. I think a nice system of work explanation is, hey, this is how our knowledge management works. This is how our Jira ticketing system works. This is how our service management works. And I feel like once they have a good direction or the grid of this is the system, they can figure out whatever the missing piece is. I'm pretty sure they can figure that out themselves without having to, you know, hey, where is this or where is that? So I think there is a big value in onboarding somebody to understand that this is how your system is working.
And we're like technically talking about user experience at the end of the day, you know, like how to optimize that.
Yep.
In a pretty like seamless way, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be like citizen experience, customer experience, what have you, but like these the user experience of Atlassian is pretty seamless, right? So like really understanding how each of these products interact with one another is incredibly empowering and also really important in order to unlock all the value potential of the Atlassian product suite, right? The Atlassian ecosystem. So I wanted to throw out there like the importance of always keeping in mind like the user experience, which brings me actually to a point that we talked about earlier, all of us, the fact that like the DC interface versus the cloud interface it's just a completely different way of working. You're talking about like the system of work and the way of working, and the idea of you know, working a new way is something that you know, a lot of people are talking about these days. Especially, you know, after the advent of COVID and stuff, it's something that's, you know, integrated in our daily lives now more than ever. So it's really important to understand that it is a new way of working when you are migrating into the cloud, because it's a different system at the end of the day. It's a different setup. It's more seamless. There's features that are integrated, right? In a way that's not as seamless as you see in database centers, right? So I know you were talking about that like DC is a little bit clunky at times versus cloud is a little bit more seamless. So
Right.
do you want to unpack that a little bit more?
I mean, I can't. I don't want to. Sorry if anybody set up a data center, but if you're using them next to each other, it's pretty profound now, and just in terms of how far it's gone. Now, again, the base products, I think the underlying structure is very much the same, right? But how easily you can kind of jump around between things, right? And it's literally one. It feels like one interface, especially now, like, when you have Jira and JSM together, you almost are not always realizing when you're moving from one to another, which is good. I mean, you do want to pay attention to make sure.
Cameron, they've broken down all the silos.
Yeah.
Well,
but because, like, again, I think every, and I'm still service management for all. Like, everybody should have their own service. Like, so, hey, you need something from Cameron. All right, like, pick from the list, fill it out. You're like, oh, it'll go into my queue. And then it's like, what SLA is it, right? Okay, you need it today. You need it next week. Like, when can I do this? So it's like, obviously it's maybe a little built out, but you have this opportunity to, we're always intaking information. We all have projects that we're running, and we all have information that we need to store. And so if you kind of circle around, like you said, the system will work, or those three core products, and you use them correctly, and just honestly being a little creative and a little strategic, which we can always help with, right? But at the end of the day, we also want to set up our clients to also feel like they own these systems at the end of the day, because if they always lift up the hood and they go, oh, I don't understand, and close it, right? We haven't really helped them. And I think that kind of goes into your adoption. It is about the user experience, but it's also like, even what's the admin experience? What's that total cost of ownership, as long as it's low and that ROI is high, right? Where in a year, right after we're done standing something up or we migrating them, they're like, ooh, well, why don't we add this department, or why don't we build these flows in there? Well, they taught us how to build this, or something changes, right? And they're like, oh, cool. Well, this is more intricate now. This workflow actually has 2 more approvals than these other departments. Boom, we spin those off, right? All right, cool. And now they're owning these systems, right? And I think that goes very deeply into that whole adoption question. So yes, data center is a little bit feeling dated these days. It still works pretty well, but at the end of the day, the experience is quite different, and we don't succeed as solution partners until we get that adoption, right? It's not about the sale. It's not about even standing it up perfectly. If the users don't like it or the admins can't use it, it's kind of a failure.
80% of, I think I misquoted it earlier, but I think it's 80% of change efforts fail because of lack of adoption. Which just,
I like the other figure too.
I think it was the same one, but like, I think I misquoted the stat, but it just goes to show you that, like, if you don't adopt something, it doesn't matter how well structured it is or like how fancy schmancy it is, it's not gonna work long term, So again, like, understanding the value proposition, understanding where people are coming from in terms of, like, why are they resistant to change? Where are the blockers? How can we help them overcome those blockers is incredibly important, especially when we're talking about transformation efforts at this size and scale. It doesn't matter if it's small, medium, or large.
Sure.
For sure.
Well, guys, I feel like we've covered a good topic here, and I think as we continue to learn more, right? I think there's this element of, if you stop learning in this space, right, you kind of take your eye off the ball, right? Like, we gotta keep learning from our users. We gotta keep learning from experiences and these projects. And I think at the end of the day, keeping your eye on some of the little things is really important, right? And keeping your eye on the human beings, right, in this process. And that's kind of why I threw that to you initially, is because when we were talking about the change management element, you very often kind of came back to keeping your eye on the integrity of that process, and kind of checking in with individuals, and checking in with stakeholders, checking in with users, right? And at the end of the day, all I was talking about earlier is teams themselves checking in with themselves. How do we do things? How do we want to do things? how are we going to continue to do things as we grow or as we scale or as things change? Like, are we nimble enough to adapt to the future?
And also like kind of putting a mirror and seeing like, what are we not doing that we should, or like what are we doing that's actually like not good for our long-term growth, right? So making sure that you kind of like check yourself, check your teams is also really important.
For sure. Summer, any closing thoughts?
No, I would just say, yeah, audits and checks and balances, and that's why governance is such a important aspect of, your scalability. But yeah, I think I had a great chat with you guys, so thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Till next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.